is to suppress our votes because they know that if we have the votes, then we can change the makeup not only of the Congress, but of the state legislatures and of the county legislatures where the deals and the economic arrangements are made.
Yes, sir.
National Action Network and I have embarked where we've been working with a lot of the pension funds and dealing with public pension funds. It was outrageous to us that we're dealing with some cities, some counties, and some unions that have major populace in our community, and the money's being managed by all whites. They tell us lift yourself by your bootstraps when we don't have the boots or the strap. They take our money, give it to their money managers. Their money managers fund their developers. Their developers come in and gentrify our community. So grandma is financing the removal of ourselves from our own community. It's bad enough we losing. It's worse when we understand we financing it. I went to a major union. 82% of their membership black and Latino. 130 money managers, 2 blacks. Progressive union. Out there on every issue. But the money is as bad as it would have been in the 19th century. County executives ought to deal, where are we with the money? You go into office to protect an economic base, not to go in to get a job. Unless we protect voting and use those votes for our economic interests, then we are just manipulating the people rather than leading the people. So the first thing we got to deal with is voting. Second, how we deal with the economic pie that you have access to in your county. We have legitimate concerns in our community. Talking to Albert about opioids, all of that. Why aren't we involved in how all of this is done? And who's going to be the ones that are the legal representation to make sure that our community gets the correct care? We get the disease, we get the opioid overdose, we get all of the negative, while others make the money off our pain. And many sit in county offices and sign off on that and never raise the question. Now, this is not new. When they were bringing cable television to Detroit, Coleman Young was mayor. They said, Mr. Mayor, we have a meeting with all of those that are competing for the cable licensing. He said, fine. Said the meeting's 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Fine. They brought everybody in the mayor's conference room. Mayor comes out the side door from his office. He walked in, looked around the room. He said, meeting's over, and got ready to walk out. They said, wait a minute, you haven't heard from everybody. He said, nobody black around the table as black as Detroit is. He said, unless y'all bring some black folk in here in the bid, there'll be no bidding. And that's how the brother got the cable station in Detroit. You are in position to say no.
All right.
Now, when you say it, they're going to try to accuse you of, oh, do you have a deal? No, they have a deal. And they deal us out. I was at one company. Is this a shakedown? Wait a minute. Y'all sell your stuff in our community. I ask you whether you're doing business with folk in our community. And you ask me, is this a shakedown? No, this is a shake up. And we need you executives in these counties to shake them up. And I'm not talking about going there and say, I want my friend Joe to have it, or Bertha, but you gonna bring some blacks in here, or we are not going to let the deal go, because that's who sent us in here. We must deal with voting, we must deal with economics, we must deal with the social fabric in our community. If we have black developers and they cannot get investment dollars from money managers, if we have black economic institutions and they cannot get contracts, if we have black banks in municipalities that got 20, 30, 40% black population, yet all of the money is banked in white banks, yet our tax dollars is 20, 30, 40% of the tax base, but they can't deposit none of that in our bank. That ain't a donation, that's their money. But the deposits would strengthen our banks. We can give our own business loans and our own mortgages.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If black churches were just in every county, I said in New York at our national convention just 2 weeks ago, if we can get 1,000 churches to get up on Monday morning and say we all gonna bank at one bank, and for that we want to see this and that in terms of fairness for our members, it shows our economic strength. But they've been able to bully us into not doing business so they can keep all the business.
That's right.
That's how Donald Trump is president, is business. First thing he did was take care of business. Tax cuts, help the rich, help corporations, bring all your money back from overseas, don't tax it. He went into business. We run around talking about stuff at the bottom when he started chopping at the top and gonna stack the courts and the Supreme Court and make it legal. Yeah. And you run around worried about what Kanye said. I'm worried about where the deal is going. Rev Al, what you think about Kanye? Nothing. I want to know why the economic flow with our money is going the other way. Governor in New York said we're going to rebuild LaGuardia. Well, we want to be part of that, or y'all ain't going to rebuild nothing. And we worked, and he worked with us 10% of the whole rebuilding of LaGuardia Airport is now being handled by a black firm. We've got to do this nationwide. I started in Operation Breadbasket. I was trained by agitators like my brother from Texas, who sit over there trying to act like he don't know me because the camera's in it. There is no shame in standing up for our economic interest. And my message to our county executives is you must resist the moves to take our vote, and you must use your positions for economic gains at the end of your term. If you cannot show us where there has been a movement in county contracts and county business, then you've been a waste of time. The Bible talks about taking the land. Land is economics. Where a man's treasure is where his heart is. Economics. You're elected to protect and democratize the economy in your counties and in wherever you serve. They sit back then and analyze us after they take any possibilities away. Well, the problem is the black family. When you don't have the economic underpinnings to sustain many of our families. But the problem is blacks are not staying together. Well, it was against the law not long ago for us to even have a family. Can you imagine grandchildren of slave owners lecturing slaves about marriage when it was against the law to 120 years ago for us to have a marriage license and to have children that had our last names? My great-grandfather was a slave in Edgefield, South Carolina. Newspaper came, wanted to do a whole lineage study on me, come back and told me where's your father from? I said, Florida. He said, no, do you know your grandfather? I said, I knew him before he passed. Where's he from? I said, Florida. He says, well, we know that your great-grandfather was a slave in Edgefield, South Carolina. Did you ever know that? I said, no. I said, how do you know that? They said he was owned by a white family in Edgefield. The man died. In order to pay her bills, the widow sold out her slaves to do indentured servitude. And she sold your great-grandfather to do servitude that she was paid for in Florida. That's how your family got to Florida. The name of the woman, the widow, was Anna Thurman Sharpton, whose cousin was Strom Thurman. That's who owned my great-grandfather. I went to Edgefield, and in Edgefield and in many places in the South, in the churches, white churches, some black churches, the cemeteries are attached to the church. So I went to the First Baptist Church, the white First Baptist, and went in the back in the cemetery, and half the cemetery is Thurmans and Sharptons. Now that's just my great-grandfather. That's my grandfather's daddy. He could not marry my great-grandmother. So this ain't no, you talking about the past, I'm talking about the immediate line of my family. And now you're gonna lecture me about family structure when we're just 2 or 3 generations in a structure, put in an economic hole that you stack all of the contracts and the deals out of our community. Give us schools that you underfund and use property tax to give us the worst technology, if any, the worst teachers, if any. And then you're going to turn around and ask what happened to our kids when you've stacked the whole deck against us, and then you got some black executives that are happy to even be in the building and skinning and grinning and taking pictures with people that hate you and hanging them on the wall rather than sitting there and taking care of the business that put you there in the first place. People laughing at you when you leave office. They go on the Florida state legislature, go on the Florida county legislature, and vote against your right to vote. And you asking, can I take a picture? Can I hang it on the wall? Now, I'm not asking everybody to do what I do. When President Obama was in, one of the reasons we got along so well for 8 years is I never expected him to do what I do. But I told him, we'll create the climate to help you do what you need to do. Yeah. If we need him to go to Florida and march for Trayvon, I'd do that. We just need you to respond as president. I don't expect you to go on the floor in the county with a dashiki on and throw your fist up. But I do expect you to block anything that we do not have our right share for. That's what people suffered and died for.
Yes, sir.
And you can do it quietly. You can do it with a smile on your face. You can even tell them, take the picture of me blocking you. But we need to be serious in this backlash era. And we need to let them understand that we're not where we were 100 years ago. We have more power, we have more influence, and we have it because people paid a price to give it to us. It was not donated to us. It was earned through the sweat and blood of our grandparents.
Yes, sir.
And we consider their blood sacred. And we consider their sacrifice something that we are not going to portray. So I hope as we gather here that we take very seriously the obligation we have of the people that gave you whatever title you have, expecting that you will make that title live and make that title have meaning So that when you leave whatever office you leave, because one day you will leave. And when you leave this earth, because one day you will leave. Like my grandfather used to tell young men called my mother, you may not be going home, but you leaving here. All of us gonna leave here. Let us say that your service time and your time on duty benefited this and that and have meaning. Don't live a life of meaningless picadillos that you enjoyed and played to your demons and never did something that advanced yourself and others. Now, Reverend, and I'll close on this, Reverend, they'll say it's very lonely doing that. Well, that's why most of our effective leaders, sisters and brothers, were people of faith. Were people that understood that if you stand up, there is a power that'll hold you up. That understand you don't operate by yourself. That's why it was always a Reverend Martin Luther King or a Minister Malcolm X, people that believed in a higher power, that know if you make one step, God would make two. And that God would give you strength you never ever thought you'd have. That God is still on the throne. I don't care who in the White House. God is still on the throne. And if you just believe in him and have the faith, even if you're a little nervous at first, he will give you more strength as you go. And if you stand up for what's right, no weapon formed against you. None. No weapon. I don't care who it is and how it is. But God is obligated to protect those that stand up for the righteous. But he owes no obligation to some egomaniacal, self-aggrandized folk that's more impressed with their title than with the role he put them there for. So it is our position, people of faith. I'm not worried about Trump. Trump is an expected backlash. I'm worried that the children of the faithful grab onto the faith that they had. If they could, with no money, no assets, no power, not even the right to vote, could stand up and open America up, then you and I, with all that we have, should have the faith to keep America open and not let them close the doors. Rev, I don't know if we can do it. I don't know if we could beat Trump. We elected a black man that we couldn't even pronounce his name in 2008. They said it was a fluke.